working on finalizing those details with the trash company. That'll be November 3rd, 4th, and 6th. The newsletter is being finalized this week and should be hopefully at the printer next week, so we'll get those out by the middle of this month. Leaf pickup within the community, like we've done in the past, will be the first week of November as well. November 1st through the 5th, and properties will just have to call and let us know that they'd like to be on that list. We'll pick that up. The second item on my list here is regarding the recording video. This was per the mayor and the board's request that we begin recording the meetings. So we are now recording these live, not live at this one. This is our first live meeting that's being recorded. They will be placed on our website the following day, if all goes well. Tomorrow will be our first trial run, so we'll give that a whirl and make sure that that works. But it'll be on our website, and then we'll place a link to that on our Facebook page, and it'll be accessible near where our agendas and minutes are on our website as well for viewing after the fact. The next item is regarding our Missouri Transportation Finance Commission. I'm trying to think, sure you might have been on the board when you guys did this, but whenever we did the large project over on where the new outer roads are and the new stoplights were added, that was a project done in conjunction with what we have as the Transportation Development District. That board meets annually and collects a 1% sales tax in that area. Those monies are then collected and paid the annual cost for that project. That project was all in all over a $2.2 million project. The city paid about $1.2 million of that, and we took a 10-year note with the Missouri Transportation Finance Commission, and I am happy to report today that is another debt that is paid off. So that has been finalized and paid off this year. So you'll notice a big difference next year whenever it comes to our transportation budget. We will have a swing of about $200,000 to $300,000 that we'll be able to spend on transportation roads starting next year. I've been kind of preparing for this, so I know Jason and I are ready to bring a list of streets that we have in mind and some projects that would benefit our entire community. So just wanted to make mention of that. Like I said, it was almost a $200,000 payment each year. The TDD reimbursed the city. It's quite a very lengthy process and very difficult one to try and explain in the brief time I have. But they reimbursed the city about $100,000 of that $200,000 each year. So they'll still be reimbursing the city, and we won't have that $200,000 payment. So that'll bring us net of about $300,000 each year going forward for those type of projects. The last item I have is regarding at the last meeting the board voted and discussed the concrete approval of $5,000 spent downtown to remove some trees and remove some bushes and different things like that, and put in some concrete along Main Street there, and then eventually put in some benches and some other upgrades and trash cans and whatnot. That was done back in 2008 when that project was done, so it's in need of some major upgrades. Needless to say, after this meeting we were ready to get started this week, and then we had someone approach us within the community that is willing to make a sizable donation towards this project. At this time, they're going to remain anonymous, but hopefully once we get some details worked out, I believe that this might be one of the projects that they're considering. They have said for us to go ahead and proceed with removing the trees and bushes and going ahead and putting the concrete in, so that can get done here in the next couple of months before the Christmas season. And then we can come back if this is the project they choose to go forward with. And there's a whole list of options: updating the gazebo, updating the caboose, updating and getting some more benches and trash cans. There's a large possibility of some major upgrades that we can do downtown. So I just wanted to regarding that. So I believe that is all I have.
Were you able to talk with the trash company?
I have not known.
Because I'm definitely wanting a recycle dumpster there, I don't know what our people we use will do it, if not, in Franklin County. I think when we were the ones who bring it in, they take that money out of what we recycle. Anybody have any questions for Mr. Knight? Do you have anything?
Couple things. So tomorrow and Wednesday we're doing startup on the new fine screen at the treatment plant. That's installed, and the manufacturer will be here to get that up and running, which is pretty exciting to start getting a lot more of the trash that comes into our plant, let's call it. So that's good, and hopefully we'll be shutting down our UV in the next couple of weeks. Our permit requires us to, we can shut it off after October 1st. We're having a couple of things we need to tweak, so we want the manufacturer to come in and look at that stuff before we shut it down. And hopefully 6 months of the fine screen will help us tremendously with the trash that's in the plant. And NB West is going to be in town at some point in the next couple of months to fix some of the spots on Orchard Ridge where we've had some water main breaks. And then we're going to overlay Iron Hill Road and kind of that intersection there at Park and Pasadena, kind of clean that up a little bit. So they told me sometime between now and the end of November. So I'll have a more firm date when it gets closer. So.
We'll shoot that right from home.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's great. It's part of chief work. I think it's on Mr. Dooley. And next will be other business. So here we'll bring this back up. So in the last meeting, when Tim Miller was appointed interim, the interim pay was tabled until this meeting. I believe Alderman Sykes brought that up. So that's what I would like to bring up at this time. The interim said to wait to discuss a pay increase for that this time. So I would like to see things about that.
Actually, we'll be there to review the record that I reviewed that motion for lack of a second, and then the motion that we voted on was just to be for interim building inspector. But my motion I actually withdrew because I didn't get a second.
Been on boards before, and I don't, we always went to executive session and had it recorded, everything we said. We talked about personnel and I don't ever remember discussing personnel in the public meeting. Is that?
There is no reason, you never have to go into closed session if you don't want to. But you can go into this closed session to discuss real estate contracts, which we normally do. Because we obviously talk about what you want to counteroffer, the buyer's going to be right on it, but you do not have to do that.
Okay, I just didn't know that.
And it's hiring, firing, discipline, can be done in executive session, but it can be done in open session. Budgeting process has to be in open session. We're talking about spending money that is situation like this. Discuss and or into a situation that would be open session. It goes to the budget.
I just didn't get never discussed.
I know that my, building report wasn't, asked about, probably some interim or whatever, but if you notice on your building report, we are at $34,000 in permits, which surpassed last year already, and we still have October, November, December. So our income on permits is very good. Our, budget for our salary has room in it because Mike didn't work full-time, so that money is available too, if anybody, would think of that. Thank you.
Again, I guess I'll recommend it. Let's simplify it here. I'm gonna recommend again, we're gonna put her in this interim position. That should come with pay raise to do that job. Because we're looking at, I don't know, putting this position. What that position comes responsible. So I'm gonna suggest, as I talked about with Attorney Voss, we brought up at a meeting about a month ago now, $5 an hour cap. That would be nice. Until that's not position.
Once we give someone a raise, we can have to get ready to do it.
We talked about this with Craig, this interim, it follows the interim.
You could give somebody the title of interim, raise their pay. You can then, if they don't stay in it, always have the ability to pay. You can certainly reduce the pay. If they don't keep that position, you put them back in the system. So just giving someone a raise, you give them more responsibility. You take the responsibility away, then you couldn't take the pay. It's not like you give a pay raise, you can't ever get it back. That's up to the board and the budgeting process.
Correct. So, if no one's appointed interim, the pay follows the interim status. Meaning, if someone is appointed building inspector, that pay needs to.
You can certainly, if someone's inclined to make a motion, the motion, I think, should say when this starts. You lawyer, put her in the interim spot. I'm just going to vote. So you can say when the $5 starts, you can say continues until such time as another building inspector is hired, or she's no longer serving as the. You put that in the motion, so there's no doubt that it's not open-ended, if that's what the concern is. So you can make the motion, say whatever you want.
I'm just thinking that we have 100 other employees who all do an excellent job, and aren't they gonna want a $5 raise also?
If they're in a room.
Are you doing more work?
We just got raised. We just got a raise.
You can approach the podium, please.
Yes. Terry Keeler, 75 over. So, the last meeting I was at, you guys decided to go across the board for raises for everybody, it doesn't matter who was doing what, it was just across the board. If somebody's fulfilling a position that they're doing the work for, somebody needs to get paid for the work. If she doesn't have an assistant for herself, she needs money. Doing the job. It's $5 an hour back pay her. Or she's probably gonna walk. And there's not many people out there who are applying for jobs, as you've seen. 2 more weeks is not gonna make a difference, guys. I'm telling you, she's good at her job, give her the pay.
Have we ever paid other incomes?
But
Yes, yes.
It doesn't even matter.
we just need to figure out which side you're on. Because
I know which
last
side I'm on.
the
I'm on
last
St.
meeting
Clair,
you-
Missouri side.
I'm
last year. But the last meeting, that's not what you said. Last meeting, you were contradicting yourself when the pay came across for everybody else. So, but you agreed to that, correct?
I did agree to that
Okay.
wholeheartefully.
But she's not doing,
She got a raise then.
I got 50 cents an hour.
I mean, I don't know who got what, I know,
but she's fulfilling a position as a lead here, correct?
correct, for a short term.
Well, but how long has she been doing it?
There was a pay.
Since I retired.
I think she inspected it when I opened
Just
it.
put yourself in her shoes
December.
for 1 second. If you were doing the work, you had your own business, you were doing the work, you wouldn't just expect nothing in reward. You would expect-
I did a lot of work and got nothing in reward.
Well, that's the choice you make.
I know, that's the
when
choice
you're a
when you're a business owner.
But she's working for us, and from what I hear, nobody's saying she's doing a bad job.
No,
You all are just saying that there might be somebody better. So, do what's fair.
thank you.
Dana Collins Messick, I've been an employee here for over 18 years. I am beyond shocked at a lot of things that are happening. I think the public is misinformed on a lot of things. I will say that since interim building inspector has come into play, that the inspections, I have seen countless people within our city hall doing those inspections. I don't know if it's because we did not vote on the pay, what, but they haven't. My thing is if you want a position, you would be building yourself and showing yourself and proving yourself to want to learn and do things. You would be going out with those people to learn that job. Now, back when this job position, the board had their thing and the job came open. I made a comment in a department head meeting that I was interested in the position and that I also have the ICC certification. I heard today stated that in that meeting, whenever there was a meeting, that it was decided that you guys were going to have a panel or a committee, which was not true. At the first meeting, it was decided that they didn't think that it could be fair, so we were going to have to interview in front of a panel. It was after that the aldermen were called and asked to change that and form a committee. At that time, I understood that I was probably not the candidate for that job because one had already been chosen. And I backed out and sent an email to every single one of you. I do not have anything against Kimberly. I think she's a dang good employee. I think she's a hard worker. And I think that, yes, she can do this job. I think that she's gonna have to get her shoes in there, jump in with both feet, and she's gonna have to probably job shadow and do all that, because I think where we went wrong is whenever we hired somebody before, they didn't meet 100% of the qualifications, and not a single one of us within the city was able to guide them in the right direction. At the end of the day, it is about the best for the city, and it is about the people of the city. But the thing is, we can't do lawsuits. You don't want that burden put on other people. But at the end of the day, we're all fighting something that ultimately we always want to see each other progress. It's hurting the staff, it's hurting everything, and it's not worth it. It's not worth to see the fighting. It's not worth to see everything that's going on. Your perception could be one thing, my perception can be another. You know, I felt railroaded and blindsided. If I would have known that night that Mr. Bercy was going to try to appoint somebody, or felt like he was gonna do that, in that department head meeting that day, it could have been said. I even said to the mayor herself, you know, I wish somebody would have told me, because I didn't want it to go against, where it looked like we were competing for a position. And then with everything that happened, with what I felt like was backdooring, and the phone calls, and then the committee changing, and then it was a 3-2 vote, I mean, there's no way. So we keep talking about fairness, but
Thank you, Dana. I'm not sure about the backdoor. I know what the board voted on in here, but the board obviously wasn't familiar with the handbook, nor was I. So it wasn't the board's job. It was the mayor's job to appoint. So therefore, I created a very fair, in advisory committee, including the board president, Administrator Durker, who also chose another alderman, Mike Marcy, who was only there for council and for interview questions, and myself. So it wasn't a backdoor, it was because all of us sitting up here did not follow the proper policy.
Mayor, if I might add something. I've sat here quietly thinking about where I interject, and I'm always of the opinion that it's not my role unless I'm called upon. With that being said, there are some things that I would like to share regarding this discussion with the interim $5 an hour rate. We have a small staff, that works together, that works hard, that does more than what they are even nearly paid to do. I'm talking across the board in every single department. A couple of years ago, we were down 5 officers in a short period of time. We had people filling roles and doing things that they never dreamed they did. We have a group of people that have a heart for this community. When I hear people say there's nobody that has a bigger heart, I just refer to every single staff member that we have that has an excellent heart for this community. It's been said that this board shouldn't sit up here and argue. I think you find a lot of positive things coming out from whenever there's discussions and diversity. You're not always going to agree on everything, and I think that's healthy. When I look at over the years, I served as an alderman, then I was resigned and hired as assistant administrator, and as administrator, I've seen so many people come and go, and so many people fill different positions. I, along with many other people here, are the first ones to jump in and make sure that that person or whoever's fulfilling those roles are not overlooked, that they're assisted upon. Whenever this board decided to name Kimberly as an interim, the very next day I went over to Kim's office and kind of filled her in on that, and I also explained to her, that I was here for her to assist her in whatever that meant. During that time, I know that she had the banner program that was coming upon her, to be working on, which is a great program. But I'll remind everyone that position is a building inspector and code enforcement. I have been set aside, and I've expressed this to the mayor and even to the committee this morning, knowing the fact that since that time frame, and again, I'm not going to sit here and say I want a raise, because that's not how I am. It's not how I operate. It's not what I'm going to request. But there's one individual here that has done all mechanical, engineering, electrical, and plumbing inspections, other than maybe 1 or 2 since that time frame. That person is not standing up here requesting a raise. I think if you're going to consider giving one person an increase in pay, then I think you need to thoroughly look at every single person that is doing some of that job. Because I can think of at least 4 people that could take a portion of that. I'm not discounting what Kimberly is doing by any means, but there are 2 positions over there, and it's not even feasible for us to consider that one person could do both of those jobs. But one person is not doing both of those jobs, and I can assure you of that. I mean, whenever Kim is out doing it, if she's doing a rental inspection, or if she's not doing a rental inspection, I'm usually doing those. And again, I'm not doing that. That's just, hey, whenever we lose somebody or we're down a staff member, that's what we do. I can recall back whenever Kim was appointed city clerk, we were left high and dry without a city clerk. I jumped in, she jumped in. Whenever Dana was appointed to court clerk, We had a mess. We had papers spread out in the office for nights till 8 or 9 o'clock in the office. Why did each of those people do that? It's because they have a heart for this community. I have been somewhat set aside, and I have expressed this concern, that Kimberly hasn't taken more interest in continuing to do those inspections. But I don't expect an answer, I don't expect a discussion on that. I do think, however, this board needs to really look at what is most conducive for all of our employees and what can we do going forward. Is there an opportunity where we can look at, okay, whenever we have certain positions, you know, it might be when we have department head positions, do we need to, you know, consider giving an interim raise? I think that's something to consider, but I think it's best to consider that when there's not somebody in that position, so no one on either side can say that there's personal opinions being put in the mix. I think we do that when there's a time that there's no one in it, no open department head positions, or what happens when, you know, this individual leaves or that individual leaves, what we need to look at and do. I think that as a whole, we have an excellent group of employees, and Kimberly's on that list with that. I have no issues with Kimberly. I've known Kimberly before this, and I think the mayor's made it fairly clear that I was one of the ones that was, you know, not in favor of hiring her as the administrator, and honestly, I was, because I felt like we were doing not only her a disservice, but us a disservice, because I don't think she's quite to the point where she's ready for that. 6 months down the road, maybe, but I think there's, you know, some creative options that we can look at as a board, as a city going forward as to how we can proceed. I think there's some, if the board will allow me, you know, I can call some other communities, see how they've handled situations like this, and just look at options, because I think that there's definitely opportunities to look and see what we can do to do what's best for the community as a whole. Again, that's just me speaking as administrator, working with all the different individuals within City Hall and working alongside them. You know, I made mention to the board today, there's certain positions that we have in the city that I can tell you right now, I don't know that we have somebody on staff, even if they interviewed for the process, that I would recommend anyone on staff for that position. I think I go back to what I tell my 4th, 5th, and 6th grade volleyball girls, and I tell their parents this. It's as simple as if a girl is struggling and can't get the ball over the net in practice, it might sound silly, but follow me. If she can't get a ball over in practice, why in the world would I put her in a position to try and serve the ball in a game? Why am I going to set her up for failure when the spotlight is on her? Let her have some time to work on it in practice. Let her do some things. Come back to the table, and down the road, let's look and see what we can do. So again, I just hope the board considers the fact that, you know, if you proceed with that consideration of the $5 an hour or whatever difference that is, that I think there's some other individuals that deserve some additional interim pays as well.
I'm pretty sure there's a lot of you hit on a couple of points here. Yes, we have done in the past, and I'm pretty sure you mentioned it, but it's been punished. We put an interim and back pay. So yes, we have done it. So I believe it was more than once. I believe it's in the minutes somewhere where it was interim. Not knowing the dates right off. Also, as far as talking to other municipalities, I have done that. Aurora has the exact same issue that we do. So I did a lot of networking, a lot of talking. They were in the exact same position that we were. With a building inspector that came in, that didn't know the construction end, except heating and cooling, because there's 15 years there, I guess we keep overlooking that. They came in, knew the ordinances, knew the codes, was with their trainer for 2 years. They didn't want to bring in an outside contractor because they didn't have the rest of the experience. They already had that internal city view and already had more qualifications. Because just because you did this doesn't mean you know the town, you know the ordinances, you know the zoning. And so they did the exact opposite of us. They voted that person in. So, yes, I've done talking with them. In interim, it's not, everybody has to job share. So my steps out, you have to job share. Talking about taking on responsibility of a higher position on your shoulders. That's what this is about. Everybody has got longevity rates. Nice ones for all that matters. We're looking at $100,000 a year because of them. And we think that in 2 weeks' time, we're gonna have put out for the same position and have somebody come in for this amount of pay is quite frankly absurd.
Kim Miller, and this will be, I just want to state this, that when I'm out of the office, Travis, there are 2 people that can sell permits, and that's you and Dana, is that right? Right. So when Mike retired, when Mike got sick and was out from December until March, when I came back, because I was sick too, I was by myself. And there were several inspections that other people helped me out with. After that, I did all the inspections on my own. When Mike came back, he struggled with the freezing cold, he couldn't breathe, he struggled with the heat, he couldn't breathe. I did every inspection. There were maybe a half a dozen Mike went on, maybe. And I did every inspection, videotaped them, and brought them back to him, and we discussed them. So when Mike retired and Travis said to me, what can we do to help? I said, I have the banner program coming up. I have permits that I have to get recorded. I have to send to Franklin County. I have to scan them. I have to connect them to a spreadsheet. I have a rental program, a rental map that I have to keep updated with occupancy inspections. So if I were out doing every inspection, I could nail an occupancy inspection probably better than anybody can, I think. And so if I'm out doing every construction inspection, who's going to do all that paperwork? Who's going to do the banner program? Who's going to do all that printing and all that selling and that? There's nobody. I needed to do that. As far as stepping up and doing inspections, I have been doing inspections. I've been doing inspections for 9 months. So as far as saying get your feet in there and do them, I've gone to classes and I've discussed all this with Mike. He knew this was coming down, that his health was failing, and he started really working with me. He's in the military, and if you don't train up, it's a reflection on you when you're gone. And that's how Mike was. So yeah, I don't think that I have any discomfort with inspections. I may say, let me get back to the office and find this out, or, talk with someone about it. But as far as not getting in there and showing myself, I've done that for 9 months.
I made a recommendation, I think, I don't know, motion or. Made a recommendation.
Kim Marner, 655 South North. At one of the board meetings, it was stated, that Kimberly Miller, wasn't doing all the inspections because she was out. Well, everybody, in my opinion, if they get vacation days, they should use vacation days. So that, when I'm out of my job, then somebody has to step into my role. Another thing is, I don't know if you guys have ever worked in the workforce to where you had to step into a leadership position because maybe the person over you is out. I have. And I've been on the other end too, to where I was out for 3 months and my assistant had to step up and do it. they should get paid for that because they have to do their job and they have to do the job, or at least delegate the work that needs to go out. And there's nothing wrong with delegation. As far as knowing everything, any job I've ever went into, I don't know everything when I start that job. And yes, I have to take training courses. I have to ask a lot of peers and a lot of different people how to do that job. So if you expect her to know everything when she comes in, it's not gonna happen, and it's her, and it's up to everyone, peers and everyone, to train her, to help her train. But, stepping back to a conversation just a while ago, but you expect her to train someone who is gonna be over her? Where is the logic in that? If she is good enough to train somebody that's going to be her manager, then she should be the manager and train an assistant, her position now. I think $5 an hour is too much, in my opinion, but 3 or 4, that's fine. And Mayor Cozy said in one of the first meetings that I've been attending, going forward, we want to do this. She said, I'm sorry that it wasn't done before, but going forward, this is what we should do for our interim. So if people are getting hurt because of that, because they didn't get it then, they have to realize that going forward, you have to start with the beginning. And the beginning is going forward, we're going to do this for our interims. Another thing too, I work in a company that we pride ourselves on promoting within. You're looking to promote somebody or to hire somebody that is not even in our town. I would want somebody in our town to be promoted and to make more money, to give back to our town. That's just my opinion.
The only thing I would like to say is, it seems to me like there are two.
Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry, Stephanie Fitzgerald, 120 East